Welcome back to the Eternal Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob, and this is our special edition episode for our March pay-per-view, Ground Zero. And if you've been following this far, you know that there's plenty of action and high stakes to be had. We will see the Vanguard Championship. Champion Seth Rollins defending against the Samoan Bulldozer, Umaga. A grudge match between Finn Balor and Johnny Gargano of DIY. Also a ladder match for the number one contendership. To the Vanguard title, Darby Allin takes on Damian Priest. And a no DQ match. Kane taking on Diamond Dallas Page. And for our main event of the evening, a world title match. Steel cage triple threat. The only way to win is to escape the cage. Champion Hollywood Hogan takes on the Scottish Warrior Drew McIntyre and also the Viper Randy Orton. But before the chaos and madness can begin, first, let's hear about our sponsor for today's podcast episode. And this episode is brought to you by Dubby. Dubby is a clean energy drink made to give you focus with no crash. Dubby contains vitamins, amino acids, and up to 150 milligrams of caffeine. It's made in the USA in an FDA-inspected facility that adheres to GMP manufacturing guidelines. All of the flavors of Dubby Energy are unique and custom-made by the company, and you'll never get this taste anywhere else. As mentioned, the product is completely made in the US of A, and if you are interested in trying Dubby for yourself, there will be a link in the description, and you can use code ETERNALPOD, 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 all one word, for 10% off your order. Now, let's get back into the show. Tonight, we are in Chicago, Illinois, and we see a jam-packed arena sold out for this pay-per-view. The camera pans around to see the seats filled to capacity as all the fans, they're sporting their wrestling merchandise from their favorite wrestlers. We see NWO. We see Kings of the Black Throne merch. We see signs as well saying Hogan sucks and RKO. And fire and pyro shoots off on the entrance ramp. Flames shoot up to the sky. And the entrance ramp is a set piece of its own. Along the Titantron, it almost appears as a broken down building that has survived a nuclear fallout. And we see the Ground Zero logo pop up on the Tron. And it is now time for our opening contest. Making his way to the ring, the Samoan Bulldozer, Umaga. Umaga comes out on his own. He's wearing red tights here instead of black. And he's screaming and spits flying as he makes his way down to the ring. He's looking very erratic here. And out comes our Vanguard champion, Seth freaking Rollins. Burn it down! The pyro goes off. The flames are shooting. And out comes Seth Rollins. He's in a long leather orange type of robe. All kinds of spikes pointing out from his shoulders. And he's got some orange shades on. He comes strutting down to the ring. The crowd singing, "Whoa, burn it down." And eventually Seth gets into the ring. The referee holds the Vanguard Championship up high as both men keep their eyes on the prize. And once the bell rings, the action begins. Seth attempts a stick and move kind of strategy. He hits 3 consecutive drop kicks to Umaga's knee, trying to chop the thick oak tree of a man down. But Umaga, he doesn't fall here. He's just getting annoyed. Now, on the 4th attempt, Umaga catches Seth midair and delivers a devastating pop-up Samoan drop. But then Umaga goes on to maul Seth Rollins. And this seems to be the bulk of the match here, as Umaga drops Seth in the corner, and he delivers the Samoan Wrecking Ball, running hip attack. Once, twice, a 3rd time. And eventually the ref kind of has to calm down Umaga, and he checks on Seth. He's coughing. And he's also clutching his ribs here. He looks to be a bit worse for wear. Umaga slows down the pace. Now, as he gets Seth into the middle of the ring, and he's relentless with a vice grip on Seth's traps. Every time Seth tries to stand, Umaga headbutts him back down. Until eventually, a beaten down Seth, he is able to avoid a splash, and he hits a super kick. And then a second one, and then a third. Umaga, he's wobbling, he's looking dazed. He's looking a bit unsteady. Seth is able to pick up Umaga and hits a big buckle bomb. And follows it up with a fucking arrow. Goes for a pinfall. 1, 2. Oh no, not a 3 count here. A 2.9 count, if you will. The crowd is losing it. Seth, he tries to go for a stomp, but Umaga catches his foot and attempts a Samoan spike. Seth, able to slip out of the maneuver, is able to kick Umaga in the gut, and he hits a pedigree here. Seth, looking very worse for wear, starts to climb to the top rope, slow as can be. But Umaga is able to get back up on his feet and is able to throw Seth off the top turnbuckle. Seth crashes down. And with this being said, Seth is looking very much worse for wear. He looks like the title might be slipping through his fingers. Umaga grabs Seth by the throat and looks like he's going to hit a very severe Samoan spike. Umaga lurches back with his thumb, goes for the strike. Seth, kick to the gut, hits a second pedigree on Umaga. Then, he tries to get some momentum, runs, bounces off the ropes, hits a big curb stop. But Umaga is still stirring. Then, he decides to go for a second curb stomp. Runs, bounces off the ropes. Umaga pops up, hits a big Samoan drop, and both men are down. The ref goes. He checks on both men here. And eventually, he starts his count. 1, 2, and eventually he gets up to 6, 7. Umaga He's now starting to get back to his feet. We go 8. We go 9. Seth is able to get to his feet, but he's hanging on to the middle rope. He's wobbling back and forth. He's looking dazed. He's in the corner area. Umaga charges across the ring. A big jump trying to splash and squash Seth in the corner. Seth's able to drop. Just drops. Umaga headbutts the turnbuckle. He's looking worse for wear. With this being said, Seth is able to try to get some energy back into his lungs. He forces himself back up. And he hits a big DDT onto Umaga. He's slowly sitting up. He's clutching his ribs. He's fighting his way back to his feet. He runs, bounces off the ropes again, trying for another stomp. He connects. He covers a leg. 1, 2, kick out. But even though Umaga kicked out, he's looking very much beaten down here. Seth is looking pissed. He's not sure what more he needs to do to put down this Samoan bulldozer. So he looks at the top turnbuckle. And he crawls over to the corner of the ring. He starts his climb. His ascent. Slow as can be. And he makes his way to the top turnbuckle. Umaga pops up once more and is able to meet Seth at the top turnbuckle. They're trading blows back and forth, back and forth. Eventually, Seth starts headbutting Umaga once, twice, a third time, until eventually Umaga starts wobbling and he falls straight back onto the canvas. Seth jumps, connects with a big splash, but he's thinking that this is not enough. It is not enough to put down Umaga. So he grabs a chair and slides it into the ring. He puts it underneath Umaga's head. And he waits for Umaga to stir. Umaga starts to stir. He's starting to push himself up. And Seth, with the last bit of energy he has, runs. Big stomp to Umaga, smashing his head into that steel chair. Seth slides that steel chair out of the ring. Goes for the cover. 1, 2, 3. Your winner and still Vanguard champion, Seth Rollins. He's breathing very heavily. He can't even get to his feet or lift the championship belt. He just rolls out of the ring here, struggling to breathe, very unsteady on his feet. Seth escapes Umaga and is able to live to fight another day. On to our grudge match. Finn Balor against Johnny Gargano, as they have been going back and forth over the course of multiple weeks, as DIY decided to have a beatdown on Finn Balor for no real apparent reason other than to just not lose. And maybe try to prove a point, as the NWO have been running roughshod over the entire roster. So out comes Johnny Gargano, but he's not accompanied by Tommaso Ciampa. Nope. Ciampa is making Johnny do this on his own, as he is the one who started this entire issue with Finn Balor. And then out comes the Prince, Finn Balor. He's wearing his leather jacket. The smoke is rolling out. He throws his arms up in the air. The crowd does as well. And then, once both men are in the ring and the bell sounds, we are on to this match. The first 5 minutes are spent on the mat. Lots of transitions, arm bars, hammerlocks. And both men, they've been studying each other here. And they mirror each other's movements perfectly. When Johnny goes for the Gargano escape, Finn immediately rolls into a cover to force a break. And then eventually, Gargano hits a lawn dart into the middle turnbuckle. He follows up with a suicide dive into a tornado DDT onto the floor. Eventually, after brawling to the outside, and both men are in the ring, back in the ring, and they're trading some fierce forearm strikes back and forth, and both men are just bloody here. Until eventually Finn is able to get a second wind. He hits a shotgun drop kick into the corner. He then climbs the top turnbuckle, hits a coup de grace on a Gargano, but instead of pinning Gargano, he looks at Johnny with a bit of hatred here. He drags Johnny up. It's a 1916. But no, he does not pin Johnny. As Johnny lays on the canvas, Finn just strike after strike, beating down Gargano to prove a point. You don't mess with the Prince. And as the blood is flowing from both men, Finn climbs to the top turnbuckle once more. And he does the thumb over the throat. Jumps. Hits the coup de grace on Gargano. Pins him here for the 3 count. But even though Finn won, no celebration from the Prince. He just stares. A death cold stare. Next up is our ladder match. Out comes the Archer of Infamy, Damian Priest. And his opponent for the evening, Darby Allin. The winner of this match will become the #1 contender for the Vanguard Championship. And they have up to a month to use their opportunity to face the current Vanguard champion, Seth Rollins. And now our match is underway. Priest, he grabs a ladder as a weapon, and he sandwiches Darby between the rungs, and eventually kicks it. And Darby being Darby, he takes a choke slam onto the edge of a propped up ladder in the corner. And our crazy spot of this match, Damian Priest, he sets up a ladder as a bridge between the ring and the barricade. Darby, he climbs a separate 12-foot ladder inside the ring, and he is able to hit the coffin drop onto Priest onto this bridge of a ladder. But the ladder does not break, it only bends as both men crash to the floor. After this crazy spot, a battered Priest is the first to recover. And he's using his height to his advantage here. And eventually, Darby, he's climbing up the other side of a ladder. But Priest meets Darby, grabs him by the throat, and delivers a south of heaven chokeslam from halfway up the ladder. Darby crashes onto the mat, his body beaten here. Damian Priest, he climbs up the final rungs of the ladder. He unhooks the contract and holds it high, signaling that he is the new #1 contender for Seth Rollins' Vanguard title, and he is in the championship hunt. Then on to our next match, where we have Diamond Dallas Page taking on the Big Red Machine Kane. And this is, if you're new to this series, this is the 90s version of Kane, the full mask, the full bodysuit, the red and the black hair. And as the bell sounds, the fight is immediately taken outside of the ring, as DDP knows that he can't match the sheer power of Kane. So he grabs a trash can that he finds, and he tries to take off Kane's head. But you're not going to keep the Big Red Machine down that easily. And eventually they brawl through the Timekeeper's area and into the lower bowl of the arena. And honestly, this is just a game of cat and mouse, as no matter what DDP tries to do, Kane is just many steps ahead. And there's just no stopping this monster. He just keeps coming. And eventually, in a concrete stairwell, DDP realizes he's not going to win this match with the way things are going. And he baits Kane into a diamond cutter on the stairs. While Kane is dazed, DDP pulls out a pair of heavy-duty handcuffs that he had hidden, and he hooks Kane's left wrist onto a support railing. And Kane is stuck here. DDP, he sprints back to the ring through the crowd. The camera stays on Kane, though, as, he's starting to gain consciousness back, so to speak. And he's ripping at the railing, at the handcuffs. And the ref, he's counting. He's counting up 6, 7, 8. And eventually he hits 10. Kane is counted out here. But even though DDP won, he didn't really win anything at all. And we see Kane thrashing around, and he breaks off a piece of that railing along with the handcuffs. and he chases DDP. DDP goes sprinting out of the ring to the backstage area. We didn't see a backstage camera shot as Kane is running through the loading dock, and he's got a chunk of that steel railing along with him. DDP, he dives into a running SUV, and right as Kane approaches that white SUV, Kane smashes the back window with that railing, and DDP peels out of the parking lot area. Smoke is flying. Burnt rubber smell fills the air. This rivalry is far from over, and Kane will definitely be getting his prey before long. We are on to our main event of the evening, the World Championship title match. Steel cage. 3 men enter, only 1 man leaves. A lot of history here. Hogan, he screwed over Randy Orton in the World Championship tournament to crown the first ever world champion. And in the final match to crown the world champion, our first world champion, Hogan used underhanded tactics to beat Drew McIntyre. Both men are out for blood, and they want the gold, rightfully so. The first man to come out is Drew McIntyre. He's wearing his kilt. The bagpipes play. No sword here. Then next, I hear voices in my head. They talk to me. They understand. The legend killer, Randy Orton. And then finally, our champion, Hollywood Hogan. The NWO logo appears on the screen. Wow, 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 wow. Hogan comes out and he's strumming the World Championship that is spray painted NWO. But the rest of the NWO members, Bronson Reed and Braun Strowman, they cannot come out here and help Hogan. If they try anything, Hogan is stripped of the championship. So, Hollywood has to do this on his own tonight. And once Hogan, he enters the ring and hands the championship over to the ref, the cage lowers down. And the match begins. Ding, ding, ding. So at the beginning of this match, Hogan, he immediately lunges for the steel cage door. But McIntyre intercepts him with a big, massive boot, sending Hogan reeling back into the center of the ring. Orton and Drew, they share a brief silent nod, paying a little bit of respect to each other here, and they start to take turns beating down the champion. And with this happening, they take turns catapulting Hogan's face, smashing it into the steel cage. And you can hear the clack and the rattle of the cage with every impact. It doesn't take long. Hogan, he gets busted open. And Orton, he provides just that extra violence here, grinding Hogan's face against the chain link. But Drew goes to climb the opposite side of the cage, and Orton notices this. And he immediately pulls McIntyre down, an ending to their alliance here. And then the match breaks down into a 3-way brawl. Every time someone touches the cage, the other two seem to pull them down. And eventually, all three men, they end up on a top turnbuckle. Drew and Orton are fighting for position. Hogan, he's showing a rare burst of strength, and he gets underneath them and performs that powerbomb suplex combo. Tower of Doom looking type of situation here. And with all three men down, the crowd starts clapping and chanting, "This is awesome! This is awesome!" Drew, he makes it halfway over the top. Because he was climbing the cage after all this. But Orton catches his ankle. And Orton hits a DDT from the middle of the cage wall, spiking Drew's head into the canvas. Hogan, he's trying to hulk up and crawl through the door. But Drew recovers just enough to grab Hogan's weight belt and drag him into the ring by his hair. Hogan's knocked down again. Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton, they find themselves at the top of the cage, 15 feet in the air. And both men are standing on that narrow steel beam, trading punches back and forth, back and forth. It almost looks like the cage is swaying in him in a way. Drew, he thinks about tossing Orton off the top to the floor. Or even into the ring. But Orton, with that ice-cold killer instinct, he hooks Drew's head. And RKO from the top of the cage. The two men plummet onto the canvas. The impact is a sickening thud that echoes throughout the arena. This leaves both men incapacitated. And both men may be down for the count. And this escape-only rule here for this match is starting to feel like a death sentence. After this insanity that has happened, Hogan, who has been laying in the corner, beaten down, bloodied, he's stirring here. He sees both challengers, they're laid out, but he knows he needs to do something to put them away for good so they do not get up, because he knows he's not going to be able to just walk out of this cage. When he grabs the ropes, stumbling to his feet, trembling, he tries to get some energy, hits the ropes, atomic leg drop on Drew McIntyre. But he's not going to stop here. He hits the ropes again. Atomic leg drop on Orton. Hogan, he doesn't have much energy left or gas in the tank. And he begins the long crawl towards the cage door. Eventually, he reaches the threshold of the door, his fingers clawing. And just as Drew McIntyre's hands begins to twitch, Hogan's torso starts to clear the door. His feet hit the arena floor. Ding, ding, ding. Your world heavyweight champion, Hollywood Hogan. Hogan retains here. He gets his championship belt. Dried blood is covering his face. He's leaning against the steel steps, clutching that belt and he's laughing hysterically at the fans. The referee tries to help him up to his feet, but Hogan, he just shoves the ref away as he wants this moment for himself. The fans are booing here. They're pissed. How could this happen? Until suddenly, the arena's power surges. The giant Tron screen, it starts to static. A deafening crack of thunder shakes the building, and a purple lightning bolt strikes the center of the entrance stage. The pyro is deafeningly loud, and Hogan, he falls back in shock. Genuine shock here, and a total blackout in the arena. There's a moment of silence. Nobody knows what's going on. And then the first gong hits. The crowd who were booing Hogan, they're silent. Deathly silent. After 5 seconds or so, a second gong, and a low rhythmic chanting begins. Sounds like Latin prayers. Lights slowly flicker back on, but they're a deep, bruised violet here. On the stage, to the left, Brody King. He's got that padlock chain around his necklace, around his neck. And he's just standing there menacingly. You can see the tattoos covering this man. And he's got his face painted white in a corpse paint-like style. To the right, Aleister Black. He's standing there. He's got a skull mask with big antlers protruding from the forehead as he wears a black shredded hooded cardigan. And then, from the center of this entrance ramp, through thick, rolling smoke, he has come. The Undertaker walks out. He's wearing a long leather duster here. His face is different, paler in a way, and his eyes are rolled completely back into his head. He doesn't move with an old school kind of pace. He moves like a predator. And he stops at the top of the ramp and slowly raises his arms. As he does, the lights in the arena, they grow brighter, but they're still a dark purple. And he lowers his right hand and points a single gloved finger at Hogan. Hogan is paralyzed. He's backed up against the cage behind him, and he's clutching his title like a shield. Pure fear is on his face as sweat trickles down his forehead, and his mouth is agape. The show fades to black, with an image of the Undertaker's white eyes staring through the soul of the world champion. That is it for our pay-per-view event Ground Zero. I hope you guys have enjoyed this fantasy booking series so far. There is so much more to come. And there's a lot of questions posed here. What is going on with The Undertaker and his alliance with the Kings of the Black Throne? What's going to happen between Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton, since they both couldn't get the job done and claim that world title? Kane and DDP are not finished here. Kane, he's looking to be a headhunter and take out DDP for good. Damian Priest is the new number one contender and is able to challenge Seth Rollins for that title. And with Finn Balor getting that definitive win over Johnny Gargano, where does he go from here? Does he have title aspirations, or maybe something else will happen with Finn Balor? Tune in next Tuesday to find out where these rivalries go from here. As always, I am your host, Jacob, here at the Eternal Wrestling Podcast. Legends never die, and rivalries live forever. If you haven't yet, I encourage you to like, comment, and subscribe, as we will be continuing this fantasy booking series until the end of the year. And if you guys enjoy it and you want more after the end of 2026, I will gladly continue this series. Whenever you're listening to this, I hope you have a good morning, afternoon, or night, and I will catch you guys in the next one.